ICE officer fatally shoots a woman in South Minneapolis. We have some video and we have an update. Here it is.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the f? What the f?
Put it up. An ICE officer has now fatally shot a woman Wednesday morning in South Minneapolis, according to McLaughlin, who is the Department of Homeland Security's Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs. CBS News affiliate WCCO is at the scene near East 34th Street and Portland Avenue, where federal and local law enforcement have clashed for hours with protesters. This fatality comes amid the influx of 2,000 federal law enforcement members in the Twin Cities metro area. I'm going to get into the details in a moment, and you will hear the spin from the Department of Homeland Security. They start with spin. They don't start with truth and spin. They start with spin, and you never get to truth. So I'm going to get into the details about that in just a moment. But I want to remind you what the Department of Homeland Security is doing through ICE. ICE has become or is becoming a de facto branch of a domestic military, governed by the policies of the current president. They are hiring individuals who are not qualified to be local police officers, according to multiple reports that have come out. They are bypassing or creating waiver systems for individuals who cannot pass basic training. When I say basic training and basic test in order to become officers. In addition to that, these individuals are using masks to cover their identity. This is not a voluntary thing. This is a mandate per the office. Why? Because they're hiding who these individuals are. And then they give them a signing bonus. So I want you to look at the cause and effect here. You have a president who literally will starve his own people, who will create economic disharmony. You're making less money. Your dollar goes not as far as it did. And then he says, well, sign up for ICE. You don't have to be that qualified, and we'll give you a major $50,000 signing bonus. McLaughlin claims that the victim was, quote, one of these violent rioters who, quote, weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism, end quote. This was in a social media post. A Democratic Minnesota U.S. Senator Tina Smith said the victim was actually a U.S. citizen. Number one, let's start there. If you understand the spin doctrine of today compared to how the normative practice would have been, the normative practice would have been to launch an investigation. The normative practice would have been to not create conclusion before a proper investigation had been done, even if that investigation was done by the same agency that's being accused. There was an investigation. Now, there's no investigation. There's a social media post, a conclusion, and people move on. Well, I'm not moving on. These individuals are human beings. They deserve dignity, respect, life. You see, the Constitution may codify these rights, but the truth is these rights are given to you by your design. If you believe that design comes from God or that design comes from the fact of your birth, regardless of where it comes from, it is here. And you deserve to be respected, period. Witnesses told WCCO News, whistle sounded to alert neighbors of the presence of ICE. This was around 9:30 a.m. Witnesses said they saw a Honda Pilot blocked by multiple federal agents who soon tried to open her door. Why? She's a U.S. citizen. The motorist then put her vehicle into reverse, then into drive. Witnesses said they then heard 2 or 3 gunshots fired. Now, you saw the video. How many times have we reported on Indisputable where an officer says, "Oh, I was in fear for my life"? Clearly, they put themselves in the way of the vehicle. In this case, you have a similar argument being made, but the visual doesn't seem as if anyone was attempting to kill anybody at all, except for the ICE agent. There's more. The woman was removed from the vehicle, and paramedics were seen giving her CPR. She was eventually carried away from the scene. Protesters began clashing with law enforcement about an hour later off East 34th Street. Let's put her up. Let's put him up. In a statement, Democratic Representative Omar said the victim was a, quote, legal observer. Quote, ICE must stop terrorizing our communities and leave our city. Mayor Jacob Fry said during a press conference, quote, to ICE, get the F out of Minneapolis. Keep that picture up. I don't take any joy in doing this because I actually appreciate some of the policies of this mayor. But Mr. Mayor, you have the authority to arrest federal agents who break the law. Say you don't. You have the authority to arrest federal agents who break the law. You don't need additional permission. The people of your community have given you all the permission you need. You are the mayor. You have a statutory responsibility and you have a constitutional responsibility to those folks who elected you. It already provides within the framework of your state doctrine that your police department has competent jurisdiction to effect an arrest, even if it happens to be a member of law enforcement. So instead of telling them to get the F out, sir, how about you tell your officers to arrest anyone, regardless of their uniform, who decides to violate the rights of the citizens under your watch? All right, Senator, thoughts here.
No, that's exactly right, Doc. You know, as somebody who has served on the local level of government, both on the Cleveland City Council and also for one of the mayors of the great city of Cleveland, you laid it out. The mayor has the authority. The mayor is in charge of the police department. And so the mayor has the authority to arrest folks who break the law. So he could have told them to get the F out and on top of making some arrests. So I'm so glad that you are laying this out, just in case the mayor and his team doesn't know that. Then now they know. You know, Doc, I was watching this, a few hours ago, and I'm just telling you, every time I saw that video, it just made my heart skip a beat. As you laid out, first people would be trying to get to the truth before they spin. But no, they straight up said that this woman was trying to run over an ICE agent and that the agent feared for his or her life. I think it's his life. No, the video clearly does not show that. Also, there's some there's some reporting out there that maybe the driver was getting conflicting instruction. Do you go or not go? You know, that's a possibility too. But in no way was she trying to hit an ICE agent. ICE should not be there in the first place. Let's go ahead and start with that. The fact that it appears that the president of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump, has a vendetta against the great state of Minnesota. And he going up in their rogue using ICE agents to do his bidding and declare war against American citizens and undocumented persons. That is exactly what this president is doing. I am not surprised that this has happened, even though my heart is heavy, and it is going to continue to happen. Look what they did in Chicago, but Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson made it very clear. And there's some other mayors in this country made it very clear. You step up in here, there will be consequences and repercussions for the ICE agents. It pains me greatly that other citizens, as you laid out, Doc, who need jobs, who are being promised bonuses, are being weaponized by the president of the United States of America. And if he had any shame, but he doesn't. If his administration had any shame, if there was any adult in his administration that would tell this president, you are going too far. And Doc, let me read though about the excessive use of force, because the Department of Homeland Security, despite the lies that they're telling, there is a policy there unless they changed it. Fleeing subjects. Deadly force shall not be used solely to prevent an escape of a fleeing subject. Now, even if they thought she was fleeing, which that does not appear to be the case, deadly force shall not be used solely to prevent the escape of a fleeing subject.
Very well said. Very well said. And this is why enforcement to the infraction is required for it to be effective. The
That's
only
right.
entity that would usually enforce that statute would be the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice would be the entity to enforce that statutory violation. The FBI would be the investigative authority that would make the investigation happen while possibly the individual is suspended while the investigation is concurrent. None of these normalities seem to take place anymore, especially inside of ICE, which once again is becoming, if the powers that be don't check it, is becoming a de facto military domestically for Donald Trump.